Yeah, I'm just going to talk very, very briefly about the Strategic Ensemble Design Task Team. Michael Gross and I are the Australian representatives on this task team, and it's chaired by Ben Sanderson and Isla Simpson. So if you go to the next slide, Andy. Actually, maybe just skip over this one because the other task teams have all been mentioned anyway. So I thought I'd just start by talking very briefly about the brief of the task team. And it's really to consider how the structure of CMIP could be improved, given kind of the compromise between computational constraints and diversity of models and just the demand for having lots of different simulations and different MIPS. We discussed, we've only had 2 meetings so far of this task team, and we've discussed kind of good things and bad things about CMIP6. And there was a general recognition that there was an appreciation of the diversity of the experiments, but it was a big imposition on modeling centers to run so many different simulations for so many different MIPS. So we were posed a few questions to consider in our task team, such as how can multi-model ensembles better inform changing likelihood of climate impacts, not just talking about meteorological extremes, but also the impacts those have. And also interesting questions around whether we're running our models for long enough. Most of our scenario simulations are only running to 2100, or most models are running scenarios only out to 2100. And that's not actually that far away now. And people born today will still be alive then. So thinking about some changes to the structure of CMIP is kind of the main goal of this committee. So firstly, reviewing the current status and then suggesting changes. Can you go to the next slide, Andy? And this is just the last slide. I've kept this very brief, given it's the end of the day. So as I mentioned, we've only had 2 meetings so far, but we're mainly looking at the structure of CMIP, and I know that Julie and Michael have already shown this figure on the right with the deck and this proposed CMIP core. We've been discussing what could go in CMIP core, and I think Chloe mentioned this as well. There's kind of broad agreement on the historical and scenario MIP, or low, mid, and high emissions scenarios, plus historical simulations being included in the CMIP core, but less agreement on other possibilities. Other ones that have been discussed are tier 1 experiments within CFMIP, DAMIP, which was, I think, the one that Chloe mentioned, but also ZECMIP and CDR-MIP. Some of this has been about how we respond, or how CMIP responds to the needs of policymakers. So there's obviously been this growth in demand for understanding net zero and net negative emissions pathways and implications of those for the climate since CMIP6, and there's been uptake of using ZECMIP and CDR-MIP simulations, but there's not that many modeling centers have run those. So looking at the possibility of including some tier 1 experiments from those in the CMIP core. There's also been this discussion of a 1750 start date, which Zeb was mentioning before. That was came out of a proposal that was based on a UK ESM simulation that did show some interesting effects, and also includes volcanic eruptions, significant volcanic eruptions in that 1750 to 1850 period, as well as interesting possible examination of land use and aerosols and greenhouse gases. But from what I can see, I was just looking at the documents for this. Some members of the CMIP panel seem to be querying the need for this, so it's not obvious that this will get up. But there's ongoing discussions about that. Yeah, that's all I had to say. Thanks.